Good morning. Good morning on the morning of the lunar eclipse. Maximum occlusion in the west here will be at 12:11 p.m. Mountain Time. And we are looking at a full moon beside the nodes in tropical Pisces, and then again in Sidereal Aquarius. The sun sits with the past, the south node of the moon, and the moon is eclipsed by Rahu, the north node, heading toward a spiritual, utilitarian end if the signs are taken into account. But it's an interesting chart for sure. I think in both cases, what we're looking at, is the dichotomy between indoctrination and individuation. We have to choose ourselves at some point in our maturation in reality. And reality being Saturn, Saturn being about limitation, being about maturation, the silvering, the moon, the bringing the unconscious toward consciousness that is our being, our collective being on earth. And that's the way I look at it, because life doesn't make sense to me in any other way. You probably have another way of looking at it, but this one's mine. And, however you're looking at it, at this point in our collective evolution or our collective journey or our collective whatever the fuck this is, humanity is the first species that we know of that has ever held the responsibility for its own evolution consciously. And that consciously part is about Mercury, and Mercury being the messenger of the gods, going between heaven and the underworld, like we do in a conscious way, right? We live in a realm of polarity, and we embody both sun and moon, inflation and deflation, conscious and unconscious. This has been a tricky time, and the good news is in the spring, after the March eclipses, these outer planets are in really good aspect. I mean, Saturn is going to sextile Uranus. Saturn is going to sextile Pluto. Neptune is going to sextile Pluto. Uranus is going to sextile Neptune, and Uranus is going to trine Pluto. So what I want to say is what I always say. Maybe you get tired of the same message, but evolution is on an exponential graph curve, and it's scheduled to hit prime vertical or critical mass in our lifetimes. And, I would say in 4 to 7 years. And I've been giving this same speech since 2018. I think it's in direct defiance of the dogma of suicide, ecocide, and genocide, and I think it is a hopeful message. We can exceed the parameters of the graph in communication, in intuition, in perception, and in consciousness. We have the ability to use our words to inspire each other. We have the ability to use our thoughts to inspire ourselves. We have the ability to move through the difficulty that's been presented to us in a positive way. And as I say time and time again, 5 times the earth has been covered in ice, and those were our people back there. And they didn't even have penicillin, and they didn't drop the ball, and we won't either. But it's going to take some doing and some action in that direction. I mean, clearly none of us really know how to do that right now, but I do believe Jah provide, right? Like the divine is speaking here, and it's up to us to be good vessels and to understand what's going on. In the Vedic chart, in the Sidereal chart, all of this is going on in Leo and Aquarius. And September is purification by fire. Purva Bhadrapada is the nakshatra that purifies through the difficulty. And this lunar eclipse moves through that Leo and Aquarian axis of, well, basically it's colonization, right? It's this reckoning that we've been undergoing since 2020, where our past actions and the way that we have distorted the past, sun with K2, burned by a perception of grandiosity, the past becomes, the evolution of one culture over another. But that's not how things work. We inter-are, and it's a both-and universe. The choice that we have here, each one of us internally, is either individuation or indoctrination. And we've been ignored and invalidated on one hand and indulged to death on the other. There's a fabricated scarcity here that has turned us away from relational life. I mean, just think about the falsity of the unhoused. Where I sit right now, there are mansions that sit vacant. And meanwhile, others among us are told that they can't have homes. It's false. It's not true. They can have homes. It's just that we're not allowing it. And that, to me, is that dichotomy between individuation and indoctrination. Like, if you go along with what's happening here and you don't ever come into your authenticity, the wounds that you have won't heal, they'll deepen. But deeper authenticity does heal, and I think how we were treated doesn't have to be how we treat each other. We can learn to overcome it. And we can investigate at this eclipse how we came to think of ourselves as an identity, and whether or not we want to keep the identity that was built by our culture, right? You can do an identity audit in the work of self-determination at this full moon lunar eclipse. And there are many, many internalized projections that it's time to let go of. I'm sorry if the sound is doing weird things. I have the wrong headset. But getting back, inner world of the psyche and outer world of the psychoid have to come to some sort of resolution in each one of us. And that is the Pisces-Virgo axis of self in confrontation with spirit, material, and spirit, or form and formless, and also Leo and Aquarius, the leader and the masses. Well, just final question as I wrap up looking at this chart. What if matter and spirit are just perceptions, just points of view that we're trying on? And toward that end, I wanted to read you one thing from this very fruitful book that I've been writing down my dreams in for almost a year now. Pregnant Darkness by Monica Wickman, recommended to me by our dear Deb Light, a member of this community. And what I wanted to read to you here is the necessity of facing inflation, deflation, or readjustments to our God complex, breed identity on that one, in the search for a revitalized relationship between the human and the divine, may be for some a fateful part of individuation. It's a process that ancient traditions, which remain connected to the fluid mysteries beyond dogma, have known for eons. The medicine that works is the one that's been around the longest. And we need to keep that in mind when we evaluate the medicine we take, when we evaluate the things we buy. All right, let's run through last time once quickly. In the service of innocence, porcupine. I am the Akashic, crossed by Mother Earth, founded in loyalty and crowned by magic. I'm moving away from teachers, false teachers, we decided, toward true spirit. I begin in ego. All around me is power. I hope and fear grace. And I end with action. And this one, again, returns us to that indigenous quality of effortless, appropriate action. The place where you don't have to think too much, where you can move in inspired ways. I am taking a little extra time this morning just to be. It's not an eclipse that we're going to see here, so we need not take too much extra precaution, but you might want to eat. You might want to drink long before this and avoid maximum occlusion to take a meal or anything like that. It's a great day. Ego flipped up as a bunch of cards fell out. It's a good day to lie low, maybe even sleep through the eclipse if you can. Naps and snacks, but not snacks during the eclipse. All right, I burned some frankincense to clear the air initially, and now I'm going to put some of this diamond incense that has sandalwood, frankincense, and spices into the air for the ancestors. As we move through this eclipse portal, it takes 2 weeks. A lot of the time we have Navratri during this time, but not this time. Not this time. This time, Navratri is after the eclipse season. But we do have Pitru Paksha, which is about honoring ancestor spirits. And I really feel in this case, at this time, it's about figuring out, which projections of the past we have internalized and consciously letting those go so that we can move forward into a new space of learning, of beauty, of education. how did we come to think of ourselves as this limited being? It's because we're in a reality that is a reducing valve. And so we can work against that if we so choose. I'm going to kind of so choose. I am moving on from Red Lodge to Deer Lodge, moving on from Rock Creek Resort to Rock Creek Cattle Company. I kind of got poached, and I'm very excited to start again on the 13th. Om Doom Durgaye Namaha. Om Shrim Mahalakshmiye Namaha. Om Aim Saraswatiye Namaha. Om, Om, Om. We begin the lunar eclipse portal, with loyalty reversed. This was the founding card. I think I need to turn my card deck right side up, but I will keep this one the way it is because I think it's very important. Loyalty reversed. And we were just talking about seeing through the projections that have created our identities that come to us from the ancestors. Now, one other thing I want to say about that. There are also many, many positive things that have come to us through our ancestors. Our entire biological being, first and foremost, and we need to keep that in mind. Everything in matter that we have around us is passed down to us, and through our people in the Akashic. Everything that we have here today comes to us from those who came before. And how are we honoring them? How are we looking back at them in a way that honors their sacrifices? And how are we not? It's a great time for this kind of internal identity audit as we move through this eclipse portal. What did you get from them that you want to keep? What did you get from the past that you want to discard? And what did you consciously bring from yourself that you want to keep, and what do you want to discard, right? Loyalty reversed. Where are we losing energy to things that no longer work, things that no longer serve? I think that's going to be illuminated over the next 2 weeks quite a bit, because we never get reversals here, and it's because I held the deck upside down. I did that. All right. So we are crossed by transmutation. I knew we were going to see the snake today. So the snake being wisdom, the feminine wisdom of all the realms, of the rings, of the cycles of the earth. And when we don't remember where we came from, we can transmute negatively. But the real meaning of this is being able to turn poison into medicine. And somehow we are keeping our poison. We're not transmuting it. We're not communing with the divine in the way that changes the difficulties of the world into something nutritive. And this is fatal. Right? This is genocide, this is ecocide, and this is suicide. To be crossed by transmutation, to be negatively transmuting. And if something like this, and a message like this is going to come up, it's going to happen during the eclipses, when the luminaries are occulted, so that we can see very clearly where we are going wrong. But that's only one part of the journey, right? We can misplace our loyalties and drink poison, but we can also recover from this. It's not all poisonous, being spirit in matter. This crossroads, this eclipse portal challenge is founded in what we have gathered. This is that hoarding card. This is my capitalism card. It's about taking more than you need. And it's what we described about the false scarcity economy that we live in. We talked about it at the very beginning when we were looking at the plight of the unhoused, while mansions, literal, huge, functional houses, sit empty all around us, all over this country. So that kind of hoarding is what got us into a wrong relationship with transmutation and the divine. That's a very clear message. I don't feel a need to elaborate on that. It is crowned by deceit. Not the most cheerful reading we've ever had, but I think we really need to face the fact that we are on the brink of being colonized by tyranny. And that's very much what the Leo Aquarius axis can be, and what the Virgo Pisces axis can represent. It can represent the victim perpetrator dynamic. And when we are being deceived about right relationship to matter, because this looks material to me, then our heads are colonized, right? And we are internalizing the projections of a materialist, reductionist collective. Oof, I hope this one bounces a little. It's heavy. All right. It does bounce because that's the nature of the reading, right? We are moving away from building. I'm just taking a quick look at the numbers that I have here. 22 reduces to a 4, and 4 is the number of home, the fourth house. The way this keeps relating to the unhoused for me is just a very important part of it, probably because I'm moving and I dreamt that I was living in a cardboard box a little while ago. But we kind of are, all of us, living in a cardboard box. And when the earth changes come, that becomes abundantly clear. I think what we've been building toward is what's not serving us in this situation. And that's what we're moving away from. We're building toward a new goal. And I think the information that comes through this eclipse portal, but not just this one, not just this fall one, it's going to take us all the way through spring of next year for those big outer planets that affect everybody to really come into right relation and, effective, appropriate action. So this is a process, and we're going to watch it through March, where we're changing what we're building. We're moving away from what we have built with the ancestors and moving toward... This is the one I always forget, remember? Because it is diversion. My brain amuses me at times. So when the opossum is threatened, it moves into a prone posture and even secretes a death musk. Very seldom is this an animal that will turn and fight, although they will. The the threat here, the problem here in this very dour reading so far is that we will continue to submit to the diversions of polarity, the diversions of the political polemic, the diversions of materialism, and not move into effortless appropriate action, not move into our indigenous way of being and understanding that is authentic to us. There is a war going on for consciousness, and there are things that want to stop us from becoming fully conscious. That, to me, is because we're so close to a very important evolutionary stage, a conquest of dimension. And this animal lives to fight another day. I think, given the astrology that I've seen, lives to fight in the spring. I can't deny that this is my personal strategy for right now. We're not organized in a collective that's ready to give up our material comforts in order to make sure everybody has what they need and turn our backs on war. But I think by the spring, we will be. A little prognostication for you there. It's a losing game to make predictions, but at this stage of where we are, I feel it's safe. One way or another, we're going to need to get it together and help people who need it so that they can help us too, right? All right. We begin with joy. 22, right? Moving on from what we built before, moving on from materialist building, we build something joyous. We build something emotionally satisfying. We build something nutritious. It's a good beginning. All around us, grace. Om Aim Saraswataye Namaha. Told you it bounces. And this kind of grace, we have to remember, she rides the swan. This is a vehicle. Grace as a vehicle is being a vessel, being open to joy, to inspiration, to spirit, and doing what we can. Despite the psychoid, right? Being with the psyche, the intelligence that tells us the material world is not all there is. There is more, maybe even more than spirit and matter. Maybe these are just things that we're trying on. Maybe they're just vehicles. In any case, grace is all around us while we move through. Don't forget, you're moving through this place. This place is not your home. You come from realms of unimaginable light, and you will return there. We hope and fear. Female energy. Joyous. I mean, the last line of this, the path forward is definitely the path of joy and the path of self-esteem, loving ourselves for the spirited, beautiful, sleek, live creatures that we are, and for our ability to move through. The water in the sidereal chart that is coming means that the tool we have to get us through all of this is emotion, inspiration, positivity, and not blind positivity, but that determination, that knowing that we're not from here, that we're live water creatures who are swimming through an environment to learn things, right? 8 is the number of proper transmutation. We hope and fear learning how to transmute this poison. It is a big evolutionary step. It is a big step in individuation. It is a big following of the intuition. It is a big introspection that will get us into a more positive space with our collective evolution. I love the way Mother Earth is looking on her. You know, we had Mother Earth as an obstacle last time. We have transmuting these poisons as an obstacle this time. We finish with the spiral dance. Wonderful. It's a 7, it's a healing number. And it reminds us of the cycles. So what we're trying to do is cycle upward. And the spiral moves in both directions, right? It just as easily can go up as it goes down. And that's the benefit of duality. That's how we move through polarity in an enlightened way. But we have to be careful with our direction. That's what I've really learned about being here in Red Lodge. Much more ready, able, mature to do the kind of self-determination work where I'm like, nope, this isn't for me. If you're not going to treat me well, if you're trying to project on me negatively, I will find another environment to be in. I will find another cycle. I will find another spiral. I want to maximize my gifts, my abilities, and what I have to give. Always reminding myself that my true wealth lies not in what I have, but what I give. And the spiral is naturally giving. It radiates out from the center. It is the positive use of the psychoid. It is the positive use of the psyche to bring nutrition to the psychoid. And this plains bird fed a nation. This is abundance. This is the most ancient form that we know of. The most ancient pictographs we have are spirals. All of this in service of scrutiny. Since the 60s, in my personal opinion, since we had the Kent State shootings, in this country, every form of perception that people were invited to have about themselves as citizens was punitive. That's where we got for-profit prisons. That's where we really, Eisenhower started to tell us that the military-industrial complex was the next big thing in capitalism, and where the creative spark that tells us this is good for me, or this is the upward spiral, or this is the downward spiral, this is poison, or this is medicine, was totalitarian, was made totalitarian, is that the right way to say that? Was brought to tyranny. We were no longer self-referenced, but we became neotenized by the state. And that's what I mean by individuation or indoctrination. We're here again. The sky is here again. It's like it was in 1968. But it's also in a way that we haven't seen since the Victorian era. So there's an opportunity in that Virgo to clean it up, right? And there's an opportunity in that Leo to be our best selves. And there's an opportunity in Pisces to bring spirit into matter. And there's an opportunity in Aquarius to bring genius to our use of technique. Scrutinize that chat GPT you're using. Be very careful with the technologies you have. And all of us need to come together and change the way we look at all of that. I'm going to put the stone of leadership on this mouse, and I want to do one more thing in the name of bringing human and divine together. I got a new set of cards that I've been playing with, and these are called the cards of the divine. It's the tarot of the divine. Why I did this, and it's kind of I'm inspired by Aquarius, is my tarot deck, my Rider-Waite tarot deck, only has white people in it. But this one has folktales from around the world. It's very hard for me to shuffle because it's very stiff. So I'm just going to throw it together 3 times in the name of the goddess here. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. I got to do it in my lap because it's so stiff. They'll loosen up over the ears. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha and Om Aim Saraswati Namaha. And then I'll cut it 3 times. And pull these together and just give us the polarity cut, right? The masculine and feminine card read. The 9 of Swords. And it's appropriate for the beginning part of this reading, right? We have a reversed loyalty here. Could be a traitor. Crossed by poison. Transmutation. Poisoned transmutation. Reversed loyalty. Poisoned transmutation. Founded in hoarding. I'm using my own words for this one now. Crowned in deception. The names of the cards. It looks like a bad foundation, right? Just like I found here in Red Lodge, a foundation I can't work on. Toward diversion. I got it that time. From joy, we begin with joy, we move into grace, we become receptive feminine energy, and we finish the spiral. We end the cross of space and time that is holding us back, and we move on in a more clever way until we do. This difficulty, this worry, sleepless nights, anxiety, trauma, problems, probably till spring, until we learn to look at this collective in a new way. King of Wands. Now this is the King of Wands, and it's funny that the peacock comes up. If you've been following Dana Lynn Nichols lately, you'll have seen this, and I'll include her latest on my on this video as I drop it. The peacock is, the King of Swords is a good man, right? He is a positive king. And this whole thing just kind of reminds me of the Fisher King myth, where the land and the king are linked. And if you know right now what I'm referring to, then you know. We have a president in office who shows all the markers of impending death. And that does things to the land, but it won't last forever. And I just, want to say in a hopeful way, that the cult that we're under won't survive its leader's death. They never do. They never do. This is a new personality coming onto the scene. Once we get through this next little, it's interesting that the figure here is in bed with these swords. This has always been, for me, the Nine of Swords has always been my ill health card. This is a healthy king. Beautiful. Beautiful polarity in the reading, and a beautiful time that we spent together here today. I am always grateful to you, and I thank you for your attention.